Well, let's talk about when Bush 41 ended, and this is chronology of your leadership at NCLR, and a segue from one administration to the next. President Bill Clinton was elected.
The administration had the option of either continuing or not continuing it, and they chose to continue it and strengthen it, and they rewrote it, and with our help and input, and I think it strengthened it a little bit, not as much as I would have liked to. And then the administration asked me if I wanted to join the Clinton administration, and I indicated that I was not interested in any permanent position, but I said I would like to be considered for chair of the commission that we helped create, and so that they were forthcoming in that and appointed me as chair. By that time, the commission had been in existence for 5 or 6 years, throughout the Bush administration and partly into the Clinton administration, and we had gotten absolutely no cooperation from any of the agencies. No agency had complied with the executive order. The executive order said, look at your programs, look at your people you're serving, give us a report as to whether or not you're equitably serving Latinos. And we knew that no agency could say yes, that they were adequately. But more importantly, they didn't even bother to respond. And I couldn't get the White House or the staff or even the folks that I thought were on our side to publicize that fact, just to say, we have a government that is not abiding by the law because an executive order has the force of law. And so I, after being very frustrated, I said the only way I can bring attention to this issue is to resign. And so I resigned. And unfortunately, some people interpreted that as an anti-Clinton move on my part. It wasn't. I had lots of respect for the president and his administration, and people like Richard Riley, and who is just a wonderful human being. But it was the bureaucracy that was a problem, and they needed to be shaken up.
Yeah. And this is where it gets very personal for me, because I was in Washington, D.C. at this point, and had come here for what I thought was going to be a 2-year stay to work for an educational association, and then moved to American University and was an administrator there, and that's where I thought I was going to be and continue a life in higher education and issues of access and equity, but just coincidentally in Washington. And then I received a phone call asking if I would consider the position of executive director for the White House Initiative. And I hope you remember that you literally were one of the very first people that I came to see.
I remember, indeed. I appreciated that.
And you shared with me your frustration, and I'll characterize it as disappointment.
Yes. It was disappointing because we had invested so much time and energy and capital to get this initiative going and to feel that it was not succeeding. Was in an administration that was friendly to us. I mean, who wanted to do the right thing. It was very, very, very frustrating.
The team for my time, which was 1997 until the beginning of 2000, we saw our role in government as ombudsman. You have to have staff, you have to have budget, and unless you don't have that, you have concept, you have idea, but you don't have the resources to make it happen.
One of the things that resulted, the positive things that resulted, focused on the nature of the problem. I don't know if you remember the initiative to put money into Latino education, but it was bundling different programs into an initiative for Latinos. And it was several $1 billion. It was very significant. And you had the Congress behind it, the leadership of the Congress. You had the Secretary behind it. You had the White House behind it. And in my judgment, it was the White House, the Congress, against GS 11s and 13s. And the GS 11s and 13s won. because very little of that money that was supposed to be directed for Latinos actually got there. That crystallized what we're up against.
Let's go beyond the Clinton years
Right.
into, then I think, if I get my numbers right, Bush 43.
Yes.
And you're still, at this point, as the president of National Council of La Raza, towards the point at which you are moving to the next phase of your career.
I consider George W. a good friend. I knew him before he became president, and he supported a lot of our issues when he was governor, in terms of education and charter schools and immigration and bilingual education. And but he changed, and the commission and the executive order just didn't get the kind of, in my judgment, the kind of attention and support. And so it fell into kind of a limbo, and it lost its force. Hopefully we'll revive it with this new administration.
One of those differences in the way they approached their work is, whereas I was saying that we framed our role in the administration as ombudsman, that they really were agents of the administration. And
Yes.
they worked on Latino outreach. I think they did a lot of things focused on parents. And they didn't, I think they would tell you, they didn't aspire to the kind of systemic intervention that you were talking about.